another space, another Bitcoin circle economy. Today we have Bitcoin Calabar from Nigeria. That is one of the winners of our recently Bitcoin Beach grants that we had, and we're exciting to learn everything that they're doing in Nigeria, and yeah, looking forward. And we have here James that is leading the project there, and yeah, looking forward.
So James, can you go ahead and give us a little bit of your personal history, and then talk about how the project started?
All right. Good evening, everyone from Nigeria. Actually, um, although it's not too late in Nigeria, albeit it's already night, and um, some guys have gone to bed and all of that. Um, a little bit of history. Well, I'm James Otudo, the pro Bitcoin politician, arguably Nigeria's foremost pro Bitcoin politician. Where I would say, can you hear me?
We can hear you. It's not super clear. If you could get, I don't know if you're on speaker, if you get closer to it, or yeah, we can hear you, but it just could be a little clearer. You're on mute now, though.
Yeah, I guess it should be better right now.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Much better, yes.
All right. So I was on my headphones anyway. Um like I was saying, arguably I could be I would say I'm Nigeria's foremost pro Bitcoin politician, and I'm also a Bitcoin advocate and educator. So I'm largely in the space. I've been in the space for roughly 3 years as Bitcoin only. Yeah, it's personally it's been I've been introduced to the whole crypto space for back way back, early 2000 and yeah, 2013 14. Lack of education, we derailed. I think I forgot about the whole crypto space. Fast forward to 2017, I came back and I got in. I got in through, um, the shitcoinery. I did some shitcoinery, made some crazy stack of shitcoin, and then I lost crazy stack of shitcoin as soon as I made it, and this led to my wanting to find out.
But you don't do shitcoins anymore, right?
I've not done shitcoins for over 3 years now. Yes. Yeah, the story was very crazy, and it's a bulk of story anyway, and I would love to translate it to a book, which hopefully by next year the book will be out already, and yeah. So away from that, the whole shitcoinery of the West. I think the guy is in jail right now. Got me crashing down to over 99%, and I lost a lot of things. I got so depressed, and so depressed. I mean, having over seven figures in in USD, and everything crashing down. I got crazily depressed, and luckily, um, before then, I had already, gotten into the political race. Yeah, so I ran for elections in Nigeria. They just concluded elections. Um, in the build up to that, it takes about a year, 2 years for the build up to the main elections and all of that. So I had already showed interest in wanting to run, and after the whole brouhaha, we I was quite depressed actually. Then somehow, I can't remember how, but somehow I got access to some guys who were hosting a Bitcoin only event in the next city, and that is Uyo. And the next city is like next is actually like in terms of kilometers, it's like let's say 100 and something kilometers away from my current city. And I got so interested, like I had already been doing my research on Bitcoin, and I was like, okay, I think this event would be, that was the first time I was ever hearing or going to experience a Bitcoin only, kind of conference, right? So I actually sponsored two other of my friends. Okay, yeah, that was from Paxful. Yeah, I think, yeah, that was from Paxful. So I started using Paxful 2017. After a while, I stopped. And so there was this guy that worked with Paxful. Mr. Ayobami. Yes, Mr. Ayobami. And then somehow we got connected, and I heard he was coming to the next city for the Bitcoin only conference. And I jumped on the next public transport with two of my friends, sponsored them. We got there. And a whole Bitcoin conference, we're expecting hundreds and, possibly thousands of people. And we were just 28, the whole big hall, we were just 28 in the Bitcoin conference. And that actually, helped me because I actually was able to network directly with Mr. Ayobami. And I think when he left there, he created the WhatsApp group. I joined the WhatsApp group, and next thing he was like recommending we go to Satoshi Journal, and I started my journey, my Bitcoin only journey on Satoshi Journals, and I was on it for over a year. I mean, over a year of every day, as early as 6 a.m. in the morning to around 10 in the morning, every day. We were all coming to strategic journals and listening to people that had more knowledge, and it was inspiring because we actually, we are going through books, the Bitcoin Standard, a lot of Bitcoin books, and reviewing them, also reviewing, Bitcoin news around the world. And this, I was able to lay my hands on lots of journals, lots of, resources, read, ask questions, and yes, that was how I got orange peeled totally, got into the rabbit hole myself and started doing my research, right? And it got once, the whole concept of money and how the money is broken hits me. As soon as it hits me, I I will make sure that I tried every possible best to, pass this knowledge, pass this message down to the next person on the street, my neighbor, my next door neighbor, my family, my friends. At the point, people felt I was deranged because, I was all, I was all zoned in. I was all zoomed in on Bitcoin, and people were feeling, people were feeling I was deranged, right? Yes. So, before then also I was able to go through my depression, met some people and were able to talk me through it. And it was not just money depressions, I also had some relationship depressions, which compounded the whole issue anyway. However, I was able to go through it, and I ran the elections for the state House of Assembly, what you know as a state congress in the US. Yeah, so I ran for the State House of Assembly to represent my constituency. Now, in my state, my state is home to about 4 million indigenes, right? And in my constituency is home to about 600,000 indigenes, and having a seat in the State House of Assembly means that I'll be representing or thereabout over 600,000 people, in the State House of Assembly. I would also um, be responsible for making laws and regulations that will govern the states. Nigeria is also, I mean, states in Nigeria could also have their own laws, which, could also be used to govern the states independently, right? But the laws must still somehow be in tangent with the federal laws. But however,
And and
uh,
and what I'm just curious, what is kind of your motivation to get involved in the political side of it? What was driving that?
all right. I think two things actually really fueled my motivation to go into politics. One was the fact that we were not having, I was not seeing, and I was not having good leadership. Like, I mean, leadership that you could aspire to, leadership that people could aspire to. A bulk of the leadership that we experience right now is, very corrupt, is very mundane, is very outdated, and having giving people the option, giving people access to, good leadership, not necessarily Western style of leadership, but leadership with some, clear conscience, with some morals, with people first, right? Not leadership that is self-centered and all of that. Now, not having to do that. Now, let me put perspective to that. Now, in my constituency of 600,000 people, in fact, that constituency, which makes up the local government, is home to my state, the politicians, the political elites in my state, in the whole state of 4 million. That my local government is home to the political elites. Right now, we have the governor of the state, we have the senator, we have a senator that represents about seven local governments. We have a House of Rep member that represents two local governments, that's two different constituencies. A senator represents seven different local government constituencies from my local government, from my constituency. That's how elite, that constituency is. Yet, in the constituency, we did not have a tertiary institution, no tertiary institution. The literacy level is the lowest in the state. In the constituency, we had no banks, no ATM machines. It was that backward. Meanwhile, this constituency is just it's less than a mile away from. In fact, it's a border town with the capital city of Cross River State, which is Calabar, right? So, and then going into Bitcoin and being orange pilled, I just had this enthusiasm, this zeal that look, I mean, if people could, have access to Bitcoin, have access to a technology that allows them to be free, allows them to choose, privacy, allows them to choose, how they want to, administer their money, their finances, without being compelled, follow a trend, or without being compelled to, allow a third party to have sovereign over their finances. Now, in also putting perspective to that idea also, during the elections, and that was when Nigeria, decided to, bring in what they call the new Naira notes, face out the old Naira notes and bring in the new Naira notes. That elections also helped me, orange peel some locals. Why? Nigeria ran into shortages of the new Naira notes and money became scarce. So you obviously had money in the bank, but there were no ways to spend your money. One, two, we had mobile apps, but there was a whole lot of traffic on the mobile apps. So we had banks breaking. I mean, you have banks breaking for 2, 3, 4 days. Nobody's able to transact, because the apps are breaking or USSD was breaking. And that was when, I was able to get some locals to, use Machankura, and yes, Machankura, which you could use USSD to send Bitcoin back and forth, to send sats back and forth, right? So it actually helped in orange pilling people. And a lot of people were like, okay, now, now this is Bitcoin, right? And getting into politics also, understanding the terrain that we are from, especially Nigeria and especially the rural areas, right? Now, politicians have a people look at politicians in a revered way, right? Now, me being a politician, I easily attract a whole lot of people, to want to listen to me, and me being a politician in a way. validate a lot of things or a lot of messages I pass out there, right? And it also gave me access to lots of people because the prefix honorable attached to my name. Once somebody hears, oh, Honorable James, the person wants to pay attention, right? Because it's Honorable James. And when Honorable James is telling you how you need to look at Bitcoin, I mean, come, let's talk about Bitcoin. You want to sit down and listen to Honorable James talk about Bitcoin, right? So it was able to actually, politics was able to actually pave the way for me. Politics was able to actually give me access to decision makers in the state. Uh, During and after the politics era, I was able to connect with a lot of policy makers, in the state and across the country, right? I was able to reach out to my senator, reach out to my House of Rep member. They know me. I could send them a text. I could, reach out to them in whatever capacity or whatever need that I may need to reach out to them for. Right? It doesn't necessarily mean that they were going to do everything I asked them to do or going to, align with me. However, it gave me a voice, right? Politics gave me a voice and a voice to be able to, preach the good news of Bitcoin. Personally, I don't see politics for myself as a career. And I keep telling people, for me, I don't see politics as a career because I want to retire when I'm 50, 55, right? And
Yeah.
whatever level I'm in politics, as at that age, I want to step out of the scene, and just go enjoy my retirement. However, I believe that politics is able to, push the adoption message from grassroots, to the top, right? People from the grassroots can also have access to this freedom money we have been talking about. So yeah, that's how the whole politics thing came into Bitcoin and the pro politics thing came into Bitcoin. In fact, I think I can strongly say I am the first politician to actually have a manifesto that directly speaking about how Bitcoin could be a solution to a lot of problems in Nigeria, especially my community. Problems like power, where we could use Bitcoin mining to fix power, how 24-hour power, and anybody could, the government or a private institution could mine Bitcoin. My local government, as my constituency, has access to enormous sources of energy, right? We have waterfalls, we have good windy areas where people could know solar and all of that. So looking at my manifesto also addressed the fact that, oh, look, we could actually have a Bitcoin mining site in this constituency and use it to solve the problem of power and give people 24-hour power, right? That is
That
the
that
prevalent problem in Nigeria
yeah.
and in the constituency.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, I would love to hear some more specifically about the program of what you guys are doing specifically. And then I know we have a number of people that are on stage here that live in Nigeria, have experience doing business in Nigeria. So we want to get after that, after you explain more about the project, would love to hear from some of them, and you guys can kind of talk collaboratively about what the current situation looks like in Nigeria. I know they've been pushing, significant financial controls and trying to keep Bitcoin out, but it seems like Bitcoin just keeps winning. So tell us a little bit more about your project, and then we'll bring some other people up and talk more about Nigeria in general.
Yeah, all right. My project, the Calabar Bitcoin Club, was actually born after the whole grant series, right? Or during the whole grant series, like that before the grant series, because when I applied, I actually was applying because I had a project, a personal project that was focused on trying to get the Nigerian government to, make some um, let's say put it in our constitution, have some laws and regulations that, will legitimize Bitcoiners and the use of Bitcoin in Nigeria, used in terms of trade and hold and all of that, right? Now, while applying for that, I spoke with Mr. Scott, right, and Scott was like, you should, you this is this grant is for secular economies, and yeah, so you can partner with secular economy and bring your project in. And when I sat down and I looked at it, I was like, wow, all the projects I have been involved in, all the projects I have pioneered, all the projects, I am actually carrying out are actually helping, actually it's about building a secular economy. So why don't we aggregate all these projects together, get it into a club, and get the club to actually harmonize and help build this project, which is actually building a circular economy. Now that was where the Calabar Bitcoin Club evolved from. So the Calabar Bitcoin Club evolved from all the projects that I and my team were actually involved in, from the secondary school club. Now, the secondary school club was an idea to reach out to reach out to rural secondary schools in Cross River State, but specifically rural areas, because I myself, I'm from the rurals, right? I'm in a way, I would say I wasn't born with a silver spoon, right? And recognizing and understanding that, look, these people have the less of opportunities, and these people are actually the ones that are bearing the brunt of the whole government decisions. They are the ones losing more money because of of lack of knowledge and all of that. Now, the idea of building a school club was to look for ways to penetrate into these schools, set up a secondary school club. Secondary school is more like a high school, or is a high school rather, um, amongst these kids, and build a new generation of Bitcoiners, kids that would evolve while leaving secondary school, while leaving high school. They would evolve, and they're already orange peel, they're already understanding what money is, they're already understanding how the money is broken, and from there they can decide to build on Bitcoin, have crazy ideas, build on Bitcoin. Already they're already using Bitcoin, one way or the other, because we find ways to incentivize them, for attending lectures, attending classes, and all of that. So these kids will leave high school, being Bitcoiners, right? And it makes it easier. Orange pilling a kid is a lot way easier than orange pilling somebody that has already had a ton of information of, let's say, what is already existing right now. That was one of the projects that was now incorporated into Calabar Bitcoin Club. Also, we incorporated, personally, I'm in court right now with the federal government, right? And we are challenging the government's right to, would I say, impede or, block access to crypto platforms, all the big platforms and the small platforms and all of that. Now, what did that do? Yes, we understand that some people were able to find their ways around using VPN and all of that, but that automatically cut access to over 50% of people that wanted to use Bitcoin one way or the other. Now we understand that Nigeria is top three in terms of Bitcoin adoption, Bitcoin usage, and all of that. And when you're not allowing people, either access their assets, or either choose the way they want to use their asset, whether they want to trade it, or keep it or hold it, or whatever they want to do with their asset. For me, I just felt, and I reached out to my lawyers, and we agreed that it's a fundamental human right for everyone on earth to be able to have access to any assets of any class they want to, right? As far as it is not illegal. And also, it is everyone's human right to accumulate wealth, to have access to wealth. Now, anybody that wants to impede that, is already infringing on my human rights, right? So that was why we approached the courts, and it was actually a big project from my end. And not just now incorporating it in Calabar Bitcoin Club, we're not just looking at it's just being this one case alone. We're looking at supporting as many people as that would have issues or that have issues already with the government. We've had cases where people's accounts were closed down, both their fiat accounts, their bank accounts, and possibly their crypto accounts with any exchange were shut down or closed down because why? That okay, and that's we felt that is an infringement already on its own, right? So this case, this project was to try to get the government or on their toes. One, we're not really fighting the government. We know we cannot really fight the government, right? But we are trying to make them see reason with the fact that look, you cannot cage people, you cannot infringe on the, especially when the law does not recognize Bitcoin or any crypto as anything right now. There's no law that says, oh, Bitcoin is Bitcoin or Bitcoin is a currency or Bitcoin is whatever. And we feel the fact that, okay, we're calling it cryptocurrency doesn't actually mean it's illegal tender in Nigeria, right? It's not illegal tender. I mean, it could be an asset. It could be, a commodity for whatever it is or whatever asset class that it wants to recognize it. But there is no law that recognizes that yet. Now, if there is no law that recognizes that yet, why do you go ahead to prosecute and torment, holders of this asset of Bitcoin and USDT and all of that? So that was where that project came from, and we also incorporated into the club where we would be able to support class action, suits against the federal government, against any institution. Let me give another perspective. The Calabar Bitcoin Club has been trying to register itself as a non-profit organization with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Corporate Affairs Commission is the regulatory body and licensing body for companies and all of that and organizations, right? Now, it's interesting to know that we haven't still gotten anywhere, with that, right? Because one, um, if your name includes Bitcoin, um, you're not getting registered. If your name includes crypto or anything, you're not getting registered. But for us, Calabar Bitcoin Club right now cannot be registered with the CAC just because it has the word Bitcoin on it. Now we try to work our way around. We said, okay, we were trying to use a Calabar BTC Club, Calabar Satoshi Club, and the Orange Club. And we got responses from the agency that we should come and explain what BTC means, right? Which at the end of the day, we still have to let them know BTC means Bitcoin. And we should come and explain what Satoshi means, right? So meanwhile, we have very, very, crazy different kind of organizations that have been, registered and all of that. So these are subtle things that happen or is currently happening that if not challenged, if not straightened out, right, we will all be tied in this bandwagon of crypto is scam, crypto users or Bitcoin users rather are crypto scammers, right? So we need to differentiate ourselves, right? And that's why we're even trying to register and all of that, try to make sure that we get our registrations. Um, so that project is just to support, people that want to take class actions against government and also our own lawsuit against the government. Also, we also organize meetups. Our very first meetup was with DigiOat, Heritage Falogo, and that was our very first meetup. And ever since then, we've been organizing meetups. Just recently, I think last month, we with the networking that we had from politics, we're able to orange peel the special advisor to the governor on digital economy. Now, this guy has already been a crypto guy, has made good money from crypto, but he's just a crypto guy, right? Now, having access to this network and in being a politician was able to, get us to talk. And we talked in depthly on how Bitcoin can actually help the state revenue and all of that. And we decided that I think it's high time, we try to expose these things to people. And apart from just to a normal people, to also the politically exposed people. So we had our first workshop, right, in partnership with the office of the special advisor to the governor, and that was big and huge, and that sent some good message, some huge messages down across. And we are also planning to still hold more workshops, more meetups for politically exposed people and ordinary people. Um, Also, the club is also involved, in onboarding merchants, right? The very first meetup we did with Heritage, with DG Oat rather, that club, Don Mario Lounge, became the first club to the first business to be on BTC map in the States, right? Now, what happened? These guys now accept BTC. They are a lounge service. They now accept BTC. We are able to also arrange the manager who is right now, can work his way around Bitcoin, and all of that. Now, all our meetups and in any location we hold meetups, we make sure that we don't spend fiat. We make sure that we spend in BTC, and in spending in BTC, it means the host will need to accept BTC. So we arrange them, and for us also as a club, right now, we just partner with Mava Pay and IPBTC, and the idea for us is to be able to onboard merchants, into Bitcoin and into accepting Bitcoin in a manner that will be both useful to them and useful, to the adoption message or the adoption channels we are trying to push on, useful to us. Now, we need to understand that it's a gradual process. For us, we do not believe that we don't actually, personally, I don't believe that you need to, rush the whole process in terms of just onboarding a merchant. Yes, we could reach out to 100 merchants and put up the Bitcoin stickers there, but nobody may ever do transactions there because they don't care, right? But when we push education to them first and get them to see, how Bitcoin could also be good for their business, number one. Number two, how they can hold Bitcoin in a way that, will not hurt their business, because we understand that Bitcoin can be volatile, right? And for businesses that, need liquidity, most of these guys, are wholesalers or retailers. They have to go back to the market almost on a daily basis. Bitcoin volatility will not make so much sense to them, right? But bringing in education, there are ways we can teach them, of which we are doing, to hold or to accept Bitcoin transactions through fees and their charges and all of that. Convert some to fiat or whatever they want to purchase in wholesale, and still hold a balance sheet, possibly their profit, in Bitcoin. Now, so and this are all processes and they are not rushed, right? So I think those are basically the projects that Calabar Bitcoin Club has been able to aggregate, and we are handling, and we are pushing out there.
Oh, that's awesome. Love to hear it. I would love to hear from some of the other Nigerian speakers that are in the group. I think it's Abubakar. I don't apologize if I pronounce your name wrong, but I believe we met last year in Lugano, if I'm remembering right. Are you? I would love to get your perspective on the things that we're talking about here today, and just hear more about how you view things in Nigeria in terms of Bitcoin adoption, and also the government's attempt to kind of stamp that out. Are you able to unmute and talk to us for a little bit? I don't know if you're in a place where
Yeah,
you can
for
talk.
sure. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. So I'll first start off with Bitcoin adoption. I think we continue to see steady growth levels on a variety of fronts, like both in terms of average folks using it, but more importantly, knowing how to use it in ways in which that are beneficial, like Speaker is mentioning, whether it's using the Lightning Network or even just merchants just having a lot more understanding of how to sort out their balance sheet, or looking at Bitcoin on their as part of their strategic reserves. Now, in terms of the government, is where I think the majority of the focus has been for at least a good number of stakeholders that have been around in the Bitcoin space for a while. Because as he was alluding to with the Nigerian election, this is again something I wrote about. I think as it was kind of unfolding. So for folks that want to kind of get insight into exactly what happened last year, I wrote a whole piece for Forbes on that issue with the regards to the election, kind of the chaos that happened, and how Bitcoin adoption was also kind of plugged into that. In terms of what the focus has been on our end slash on the regulatory side, it's mostly been kind of an uphill battle because the government is trying to essentially balance out two things. One, there is some political, I guess, I wouldn't necessarily say enthusiasm, but understanding that there are some positives when it comes to Bitcoin at a national level or even at like a state or country level that will be beneficial to the entire country if there is an enabling environment for it to flourish. Now, on the other hand, they also do want to defend the naira. They also want to control inflation, and that is kind of what we're seeing play out when it comes to some of the whether it's the circulars by the Central Bank of Nigeria or even the SEC with their recent programs for kind of including regulation on the security side for Bitcoin and some of these other exchanges.
Can you just real quickly just give people that are not familiar with what the history of the inflation level has been in Nigeria and why they would be so focused on defending the naira?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I think we've been on double-digit inflation for a while now, probably over 5 years, I think. Currently official is probably above 25% or something. I'll have to check that at the latest numbers, but it's definitely in territory that's kind of wild. And just for even more context, in terms of the devaluation of the currency itself, I think the currency has lost over 70% of its value in the last 3 years alone. So there's definitely a lot of challenges on the economic side. So there is some sympathy and understanding in terms, well, there's a lot of sympathy, I guess, on the end of folks trying to reach out to regulators in the sense that we do understand that that has to be the primary purpose really for them in terms of the regulation that will eventually take shape slash the kind of the moves that they've been on recently. So I see, honestly, right now, the main challenge that they have is kind of segmenting the market into two, which is Bitcoin as well as everything else. Because previously, slash, the issue we have right now is everything is kind of regulated as one single entity, which is crypto itself, which is not necessarily helpful because Bitcoin, as a lot of folks that are listening, or at least those that don't know, isn't necessarily the same thing as crypto. It is its own class, its own ecosystem entirely. So if they are trying to properly regulate this ecosystem, I feel they first have to make that distinction. And then following from that, we'll be taking a look at where's the most effective ways in which we could use the existing frameworks that we have, legally speaking, around the country at a federal level, all the way up to trying to empower some of the state level legislation really around that. So that's kind of what the general malaise is right now in the country. And I think for us to move forward, again, this distinction has to be drawn. And then following from that, we need to have a lot more of a holistic approach into kind of looking at what regulatory regimes we should be adopting slash frameworks more generally, whether it's on the central bank level, who has been the apex regulator in this sense, in this context, all the way up to some of the other ancillary regulation that's kind of around, whether it's on the Securities and Exchange Commission side, all the way up to some of the other work that people have been doing on the ground. So I say that's kind of what the general situation is right now, slash what we're looking at maybe in the next 5-10 years, really, in terms of what needs to happen.
So I'm assuming you've been in the Bitcoin space for quite a while. I know you're a Bitcoin Core contributor. And so I'd love to hear your perspective on why Nigeria has been one of the leading countries for Bitcoin adoption, in spite of the government's attempt to fight against it. So why have Nigerians specifically been attracted to Bitcoin use? What problems does it solve there? And what problems have you seen it solve for you and your business endeavors?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the easiest way to describe it is Bitcoin has found product market fit in Nigeria. Now, as of recent, there has been an uptake as well with regards to stable coins, because again, this is just for additional context. The Nigerian government has been tight on US FX controls to kind of curb and sort of strengthen and defend the naira as well. So a lot of access to USD has been tightened rapidly and increasingly over the last, I say, maybe 3 years. So a lot of people naturally started looking for alternatives to gain access to USD. And that is the most effective way they've found to do that here in Nigeria. And I guess to an extent, other parts in Africa has been using USDT due to the due to a variety of reasons. I say the primary ones are really liquidity, ease of access, as well as kind of you could argue ubiquity really of USDT as the primary means for a lot of people to use US dollars across the world, especially in the global south. Now, in terms of specifically on the Bitcoin side, I'd say the ways in which it's found product market fit is around things like remittances, engaging in wholesale from folks that are producing in China, for example, and Nigerians that are doing business here and exchanging. And other than that, I'd say there is an uptake, obviously, on the individual level in terms of some of the circular economies that have been sprung up recently, as well as even just generally folks using Bitcoin as a means of kind of curbing or insulating themselves against inflation and things around that. I say those are the general trends we've seen. And for let me just give another interesting context. I say that now that there's full on, I guess we could say hindsight 2020. So in 2021, when the quasi Bitcoin ban happened, which is what the speaker was alluding to, in terms of sending a transaction in the bank account and having the invoice have Bitcoin or BTC and then having accounts shut down, that came all the way back in 2021, where the government was essentially trying to ensure that there's strict control in terms of folks that are engaging in Bitcoin transactions, because previously exchanges could directly use bank accounts. And then from 2021 all the way up to 2023, that was essentially stopped. So banks could no longer engage with exchanges directly in terms of tying transactions. But then it had the adverse effect, I guess, on the government side of increasing the P2P market for Bitcoin in Nigeria, which is why, if you notice, in the last 4 years, there's been a steady increase in Nigeria ranking the number one, or at least top five, in terms of the P2P volumes for Bitcoin and Bitcoin adoption more broadly. So you could argue technically that one of the other factors to Bitcoin adoption being so high in Nigeria is also the government and kind of the lack of, I'd argue, proper regulation when it comes to the Bitcoin space. So that's another interesting nugget as well for folks to kind of take a look now that we're post kind of the reversal of the ban, the quasi ban from 2023, where they reversed it essentially, which was, I think, the last maybe 12 or 13 months. So I say that's the general way I look at kind of adoption. What are the reasons and some of the key factors I think that I've kind of observed over time.
Okay, so I guess I wasn't aware of that. So they did reverse the ban. And do you think that's just because it wasn't working and it was having the effect of driving people to peer-to-peer markets?
It's hard to say what drove in the end, specifically reversing it, but I think that definitely contributed a lot to it. And again, one of the things in which they've been trying to do has been trying to produce regulation that kind of addresses a lot of these issues. And to be honest, that ban, I think it's common knowledge for anyone here on the ground that it was more reactionary than sort of like a well thought out through plan or like framework to kind of regulate the space. So it was kind of a long time coming. So we're glad it happened. Obviously, there are other challenges that now came after the ban was kind of lifted or reversed in the form of the virtual assets regulation that was announced, I think, earlier this year or towards the end of last year.
So post ban now, what is the government kind of neutral on Bitcoin, or is it still kind of anti, or what do you think in general is the position coming from the government? And obviously we know with most governments there's going to be a variety of positions from different people in the government, often conflicting, but what's the overall sense from people in the Bitcoin space as far as is the government determined to fight against them or kind of stay out of their way?
So what's interesting is it would be a lot easier for me to get a sense of what the sentiment is if there was regulatory clarity to begin with. Now, in the absence of that is kind of where we're living. So it's hard to say where they stand one way or the other. But I think what's interesting is looking at kind of how the regulatory landscape has evolved over the last maybe 2 to 3 years. It is evident that they are trying, at least to the extent that they can, given whether you want to say the lack of positive sentiment, generally speaking, to at least be a bit more proactive towards allowing for at least some sort of an enabling environment to the extent that they understand that is what's most effective. Now, the thing is, it is good and bad. It's good in the sense that there is some leeway for people on the ground to kind of engage them more productively. But then on the other hand is due to, again, the lack of this market distinction, a variety of other issues with how they're approaching it more broadly, we're having to deal with kind of intermittent regulatory regimes that kind of stagnate the whole space / cause even more confusion really than kind of sorting out the some of the challenges that we have with regards to not having something in place that's more general and kind of allows for an enabling environment. But again, the main priority, like I said, from the onset up until the current regulatory kind of oversight that they've had is defending the naira, making sure that FX is not out of control, specifically whether it's looking at NGN to USDT or NGN BTC, making sure that folks from their perspective aren't necessarily manipulating or inflating the currency. So those are the main, I'd say, things that kind of guide how they've been moving in terms of regulation, and will likely be the same thing as we kind of see into the future, maybe in the next 5-10 years. So we just have to make sure we're looking at it more, at least from that perspective, as well as how we're trying to approach allowing for Bitcoin to thrive here on the continent, or more specifically in the country.
And in general, is this more for Nigeria? Is this more of just a currency issue, or is it an economy issue? Like, is the economy thriving despite the currency, continue to deteriorate, or do the two kind of go hand in hand? I know Nigeria is one of the biggest economies in the region and kind of drives things. So just curious as to how the economy is overall.
Oh yeah, I mean, without getting too much into all the numerous lists of economic challenges that we're facing, I say they go hand in hand. And just to throw out at least some more context into this to kind of shine light on where we are right now. Yes, Nigeria has been traditionally one of the larger economies in Africa, but in the last, maybe I say 2 to 3 years really, or probably even less than that, we've slipped all the way from like second to fourth now, largest economy by GDP. We're now behind Algeria and Egypt, who recently overtook, I think, in the last 13 months. So there's definitely a lot of challenges on the economic side, whether it's looking at inflation. And I'd say, yeah, the currency definitely plays a lot into that in terms of some of the issues that we're seeing and maybe some of the reasons why we're sliding down so much. So I say the two are coupled together. And again, that's one of the reasons why the government has been so kind of proactive, despite whether we want to look at it as positive or negative towards the Bitcoin ecosystem in terms of some of the regulation that they're putting out, because it is an urgent issue for them to solve. And kind of the primary concern for any regime really, or any sort of presidency or administration that has to take over in Nigeria. So definitely going to continue to be the main issue for a lot of politicians across the board and just regulators in general in Nigeria.
Calabar, you have your hand up. Did you want to? Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to also throw in some context also with the last question. Now, I consider Nigeria to be confused when it comes to regulations for Bitcoin and other digital assets. Why are we saying they're confused, right? Just like Abubakar has said, 2021 we saw a ban or a ban on interactions with banks and traditional financial institutions, and the ban was lifted up. The ban was lifted up, and I think there was another ban again that came in 2023, if I'm correct, and it was also lifted in 2024. Oh no, sorry, in 2022, and was lifted in December 2023, and then we now saw the ban that we're actually challenging right now, which was a blanket ban on major exchanges, blocking access to their IPs for Nigeria. So, whether you had assets or you plan to have assets or you wanted to get some asset, Bitcoin, on those exchanges, you just can't except to use the VPN.
right? That's number one. Now, what when we went to court, right? We didn't just go to court. In January this year, we filed a pre-action notice to all these bodies involved, right? To the NCC, that's the Nigerian Communication. What's the other name for them? I can't remember, but the NCC regulated telecoms and the guys that actually enforced the ban, right? We wrote to the SEC, we wrote to the CBN, we wrote to Ministry, the Minister of Finance, we wrote to even the federal government themselves, like the presidency. We wrote to, I think around there are about 11 to 13 respondents, and we told them that look, this is how you are hurting people, right? This is a democracy, and government is for the people. Now, if a huge number of people say we want to use Bitcoin because we recognize that whatever features Bitcoin has is good for us, right? Now, when you bring in issues about defending the naira and all of that, yes, you understand as a country you have to be sovereign, but you are hugely dependent on the USD, right? Your foreign reserves is in the USD and all of that. And these are Nigerians that want to protect themselves from the whole vices of you being dependent on the USD. And you come up with a blanket ban. Why? Because you believe the USD is the reason for the naira tanking. But you would agree with me that the naira did not start tanking, today. That did not start going down today, right? We had the period when the government devalued severally. The government has devalued its naira. Severally, the government has printed. I think putting in perspective also, this present government has printed and thereabouts, let's say allegedly, about so far up to 30 trillion, in naira, if I'm correct, right? And I think that's what the statistics say: 30 trillion in naira in less than 2 years, and you expect the currency to stand. How would inflation not erode all of that? And these are peace-loving people that want to protect their income, want to protect their finances, using Bitcoin as either a store of value or whatever means. Now, what happened when we finally went to court, right? Because we gave them a pre-notice. We told them if in 100 days you guys don't, find a way to fix this. Now, for us, this is an ideology for me. You don't, let's say you have bad eggs or you have bad people in the market, the general market, right? And you have fraudulent people in the general market. Now, you have thousands of people visit this market daily, and you have, like, let's say 10 to 20 fraudsters. Do you shut down the whole market? I mean, this market that people go to get their daily bread, their daily living, food, whatever they go to get in the market, to stay alive. Do you just wake up one morning and shut down the whole market because you have 10, 20 fraudulent people in it? No, you don't do that, right? Or the logical way is not to. The logical way is to reach out to the market, reach out to the traders, find a way to organize the traders. Can you guys fish out these people in the market, the fraudulent guys in the market, or get your own shit together and try to fish out these guys from the market and allow people to trade, or find a way to regulate it in a way that people can still come trade and go about their normal business without having limitations. But we saw the Nigerian government put a blanket ban on Binance, on OKX, on no one's, on a lot of exchanges, big exchanges and small exchanges. However, when this ban came up, it still pushed people to go peer to peer, right? Because you just can't stop two people from transacting if they decide to transact on Bitcoin. There's just no way you can stop that, right? Now, did the naira after that incident? Did the naira, appreciate? Yes, it did a bit. But right now, the naira is tanking again. The naira is depreciating again, right? Now, when we went to court, when the news broke, it went viral, and yes, we understood that the SEC had already started putting things in place. There was a framework they called the ARIP
framework, which was an accelerated, blah 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 bullshit, ways to or set of regulations, temporary regulations to give out what they called license in principle. And this license in principle it's more like saying, okay, I understand that Bitcoin Beach is an asset, is a Bitcoin provider, and we know that Bitcoin is an asset, right? Come and take this license, and it's valid for 3 months, or it's valid for 6 months, pending when we bring up regulations. Now, what happens if um, this is this is hypothetically speaking right now? What happens if Bitcoin Beach, one way or the other, defrauds, or one way or the other goes into, becomes a bad egg, right, and somehow loses customers' funds? What will happen? And if you go to court, right, going to court, you have not you have not really solved the problem of regulation. You're just keeping people afloat. But we noticed that after going to court, I think there about 2 weeks, they started giving out license, right? When the case trended online, the next thing was they started giving out license to lots of companies. Now we would also know that there was a company that floated the e-naira, one of the companies that helped put the INERA. INERA was a failed CBDC project by the federal government. Now, this company also still got a license to create, or whatever, to develop the stable naira, some stuff like that, right? We are seeing people getting licenses. I saw a company that is involved in tokenizing, what they call it, tokenizing land and blah blah blah, getting licenses, right? Yes, we had about 2 or 3 exchanges get licenses, but they're not Bitcoin focused exchanges. Now, the whole idea about the whole um, lawsuit is for us to establish that, look, we have Bitcoin and we have crypto and we have other shit. Yes, if the government wants to regulate this thing, this industry, right? And we understand that the industry has value. I can give government value also. We're not against regulation, but I mean, you can't regulate a self-custodial wallet service provider the same way you regulate a custodial service provider. How do you box them in, right? We also saw a case. I think after the court case, we saw an incident where the FIRS, which is the tax collecting agency for the federal government, has started lobbying the National Assembly to allow them to tax Bitcoin transactions and crypto transactions in extension. And till date, the Nigerian constitution does not recognize any form of crypto, does not recognize Bitcoin for whatever it is. And how does a federal agency want to tax? It's like saying the federal government wants to go to the market just because they find out that coconuts have so much value. Want to start taxing coconuts and getting tax off coconuts. Like, I mean, taxing coconut and getting tax off coconuts and all of that. It sounds somehow crazy, right?
Yeah.
But what the project is doing right now, I think what we have gotten so far, we have been able to we have access to the DG of the SEC, and we have been speaking, right? And so far, the DG has given us, I wouldn't want to say so much, but what we're going to be seeing is stuff like the Nigerian Bitcoin organization, would step up, because yeah, the government, in a way, they are confused actually. But we need to give them perspective to what they actually want to regulate, right? We need to step up into the shoes and let them know that, hey, Bitcoin, not crypto, right? Custodial wallets are there, non-custodial wallets are there, and they need to understand that, look, you can't regulate all of this in the same, in one bucket.
No,
So that is where this case has gotten us to actually.
That makes a lot of sense. We're kind of pressing to the end of our time. We usually try to wrap up here in an hour. There was a couple other people that had, that are in Nigeria that I don't know if they have any comments they want to make real quick. We've got Heritage in here, and also Paul. So I don't know if you guys want to add any comments real quick, and then we will send it back to Calabar to kind of wrap up and let guys know how you can follow them and support them. So do either of you guys have any comments to add?
Thank you,
I just want to
Bitcoin Beach. I mean, everybody has been speaking intensively about the context of what the Nigeria narrative entails, and special regards to the Calabar Bitcoin Club and your team for organizing this space. Abubakar have spoken well by elaborating some stuff, but I'm just going to buttress their points and then share more insight about the context of this regulatory ups and downs in Nigeria, and then the entire narrative around Bitcoin and crypto, as well as the way people are interfacing with adoption. Looking at it, I'm just saying we won't be able to give intensive explanation about what this really entails all together on this space. I think I made a publication on Bitcoin Magazine analyzing the structures around regulation on crypto and Bitcoin in Nigeria. That's my latest publication. So I would appreciate people checking that out to also have insight on what it looks like on site here in Nigeria. And to Calabar Bitcoin Club's point and Abubakar's point, I feel it's more like a befuddling terrain, a confused terrain for the Nigeria government itself. Why I'm saying that is because when you understand the concept of regulating or interfacing with a particular technology, you won't be going back and forth. We've seen situations whereby the regulatory frameworks in Nigeria are more like a series of what is being run in the West. For instance, there are MICA framework regulation from European Union, and then there's Security Exchange Commission regulation in the US, and there's actually a virtual asset service provider regulation presently in Nigeria, and also the SEC regulation for blockchain, not Bitcoin specifically. Comparing the similarities between these frameworks, you see it's more like them uplifting some of the regulations they can find from the Western world and then inculcating it into what they just want to do in Nigeria. So in general, I feel Nigerians have to take responsibility, not just Nigerians, Bitcoiners in Nigeria, to understand what this really entails. Take responsibility into engaging the feds, in a distinct way. I think this is a very great point from what Abubakar said. He said something about an existing way of engaging the government that involves combining Bitcoin and crypto together. I feel we should be distinctive and be able to make these regulatory authorities understand that the first thing you have to be sure of is to be able to demystify the myths between Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, then creating a proper regulatory framework for these technologies. For me, a Bitcoiner who always believe that Bitcoin repels regulations. You can create regulations for Bitcoin products, but Bitcoin as a technology itself has a governing mechanism of it's operating on. You can only build regulations around utility and product interfacing with this technology, and it's something we need to take more important in Nigeria. So this is just going to be my contribution to this conversation. I won't like to be repetitive because other speakers have been able to lay clear explanation on what this is. So thank you very much, Bitcoin Beach and Meritage Falodun. I'm done speaking.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much. And that article you mentioned, can people find that if they go to your Twitter profile?
Yeah, I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it above right now. It's actually on my Twitter post.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll be looking for that. Paul, why don't you?
Okay, so I just wanted to
Welcome.
just chip in. Yeah, awesome to be here. Nice to meet everybody once again. Shout out to Abubakar, Otudo. I see what you're doing with Bitcoin Calabar Heritage. Awesome. I see amazing people on this list. Um, I think what I just wanted to add is what we are not doing as Nigerians is we are not, should I say, standing up or putting it out there. If you look at many other countries that are outside, there are a lot of small communities, which is why I'm really interested in this circular economy idea that is beginning to happen in the country. We have Bitcoin Calabar, we have Bitcoin Anambra. There are other little organizations that are actually putting out there and trying to push the Bitcoin standard um, on their own. Even I am looking towards starting one myself. And I feel if we have those little ones across the country, it begins to um, sell the narrative totally together. So if you're a Nigerian and you're listening in at the moment and you see any of these organizations or any of these circular economies being built by Nigerians ourselves, I think it's something we can definitely um, charge and connect with. Abubakar has a Lightning app. Heritage has an app also. Onions Man is also on the. If you check out, there's a man named Onions Man on this list. He also has one too that goes to also support the narrative that we are currently having in the country. So I feel if we're already in the line, it's growing. We generally, or we as are here, are pioneers in our own respective rights. So once we start it, I feel the motion is going to flow. I feel we're going to garner that trust, and we're just all here to support each other. So that'll just be my little contribution. And yeah, it's been great. Roman, nice space. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, James, do you want to finish us off here? Let people know how they can support the Bitcoin Calabar, and yeah, anything else? Any place they can follow you guys?
All right. Yeah. First off, before I round off completely, I would love to say that this is, would I say, a great opportunity for a lot of Nigerians, a lot of people that really need Bitcoin. Yes, everyone needs Bitcoin, right? But these are people that really need Bitcoin, to protect themselves from a lot of, all of these vices, money vices that has been forced on them, by being born in Nigeria, by just being born in Africa, by being born in wherever in the world that you are, but particularly in Nigeria right now. Now, I always say this, the window of opportunity, yes, Bitcoin will always be there, I believe so. However, the window of opportunity for Nigerians, especially, to get access to freedom money, to be able to use this money to protect themselves and their finances, that window is gradually closing. Yes, we always say everybody deserves the price they get, but that's a bit selfish, right? Because when this message doesn't go down to who needs to get this, can we really say everybody gets the price they deserve? Now, Bitcoin Club, Cloud Bitcoin Club, will try its possible best to make sure that everyone gets the message. And we can now say, yeah, everyone gets the price they deserve. Putting a little bit of perspective, earlier this year, during the Bitcoin halving season, Bitcoin halving, yeah. Now, I work for a wallet a wallet service provider called IPBTC as a marketing lead. And we wanted to, run a campaign where we would be giving out, putting Bitcoin in the hands of ordinary people. Excuse me, putting Bitcoin in the hands of ordinary people in terms of, putting lightning QR codes on pizza boxes. And when customers come to buy pizza boxes from Domino's and it likes, they could just scan the QR codes as gifts in the pizza boxes and get some Bitcoin. That's an awesome way of onboarding people to Lightning, right? And getting people to see how quick everything they are looking for is in Lightning, right? However, we couldn't. Why? Because
In fact, we reached out to Domino's, we reached out to lots of pizza guys, pizza houses, and the first thing that comes across is Bitcoin is illegal. The Nigerian government is against Bitcoin. It took a lot of convincing and a lot of showing of proof of work, because I actually have some publications on national dailies. I have some publications, on local dailies also. We have some Bitcoin radio show. I actually forgot to add that to the project that we're actually handling on the Calabar Bitcoin Club. So in our town, we have local radio shows. We also once in a while publish some Bitcoin publications, on national dailies and all of that. Now, showing them all of this and, telling them that, look, Nigerian government has never, in its outright sense, banned Bitcoin or Bitcoin transaction as as per peer to peer, right? It's just interaction with banks. As at that period, I think the ban was even lifted. Now, um, we didn't have those blockers. Imagine the thousands of people we would have been able to reach out to with Lightning. That is why regulations and getting it right from the start is important. The window for Nigerians to get chipsat is closing. As at this time, 2 years ago, Nigerians could, when the exchange rate was at around less than 300 naira to a dollar, people you could buy more Bitcoin. Even when Bitcoin got to 80H, as at that period, it was still at a reasonable, level. Right now, we have the dollar at 1,700 naira plus. That is 4x of what it was 2 years ago. That window for cheap sats, that window for easy access to sats is closing. And can we really say that everyone deserves the price they get when they don't get the message? And that's my closing point. We could support Calabar Bitcoin Club. If you check our handles, we have pinned, the current project we are handling. In fact, currently we had about 4 lawyers, that was on this case with us. We have lost about three of them due to financial constraints. We have just one, and those 4 lawyers were orange pilled, and they were taking their pay in Bitcoin and all of that. And well, anybody that wants to support us can support our project. We also have a Giza, page open. I'm going to share it. I think it's also on that thread, and you can support what we are doing. It's actually a lot, and I feel um, if as Nigerians we could, keep pushing the right narrative, and keep helping locals, keep helping the real people, the ordinary people that need Bitcoin to have access to the knowledge. The knowledge. Yes, with respect to everybody that is building awesome apps out there. But imagine building awesome apps out there and there's nobody to use them because they don't have the knowledge. Just imagine the scenario, right? But there are awesome apps out there. While we are building, while we are building these apps, while we are building, whatever project we are building, let's also support the community. Let's also support adoption through education. Because when people have knowledge, they would want to, seek out whatever app that they need, whatever tool they need to, hold Bitcoin. Right. And I think we can therefore now see everyone deserves the price they get at the end of the day. And thank you very much, Bitcoin Beach. I'm so grateful. The team is so grateful. We have some of them up here. Yeah, the team is so grateful, for the initial grant and. For also an opportunity for us to, be able to, bring to the world what we're actually doing and the scope of what we are doing. Yes, the grant was a relief. Most of this project were actually financed from, my private pocket, and it was actually huge. And the grant was actually a relief. And we hope to see more Nigerians support projects like this. Thank you very much, Bitcoin Grant.
Well, awesome. I love the conversation. I love just hearing all the amazing things that are happening there in Nigeria. Encourage you guys all to make sure that you're following them on Twitter, make sure that you're sending them sats to support. Everybody kind of keep their ears out. We're going to be announcing some more grant opportunities going forward. So this first round was just hopefully the first round, and hopefully there'll be many more that follow. And so we have some other initiatives going out. And so yeah, so just keep your ears out. And thank you everybody who contributed today. And we will see you guys next week.